I began by thinking about the origins of the Encyclopedic Museum, and it lay in the 18th century in the Enlightenment. It is an instrument of the Enlightenment, like the encyclopedia, like the dictionary is as well, like newspapers for the most part are, like the coffee shop is, all places where there are opportunities for discourse in the public realm. And it starts with the British Museum, which was founded in 1753 when King George II accepted the terms of a bequest to the nation that was made by Sir Hans Sloane, who was a medical man and a secretary to the Royal Academy of Science in Britain, having been preceded by Isaac Newton in that position, and who had gathered for himself things representative of the world, natural things, artificial things, on the premise that from such an archive of facts about the world, one could pose questions about relationships, and one could formulate answers to those questions, and then one could dispute those and critique those answers and until one finds a set of truths one is confident in, and then one is always compelled to critique those truths as formulated. But when he died, he gave it to the nation. The nation had no way to deal with this. So they took from common law. They took the principle of a trust. The first instance in which trustees were appointed to hold something in trust for the public. Now, Sir Hans Sloane had other ideas about this. He wanted to give his collection to England, of course, to London, where it would be housed because that's where he lived. But if they didn't accept the terms in London, then it was meant to go in sequence to St. Petersburg, to Paris, to Spain, to Madrid, wherever there were royal scientific societies, bodies of scientists who were concerned about natural philosophy, concerned about seeking truths about the world. It didn't give it to a place as much as to an idea, and it just happened that then in London he had two other principles that he required before he could pass this bequest on to the state, and it is that it had to be open free to all curious people, and if these terms weren't kept, that it had to be free and open to all curious people, that it could be installed and taken care of in ways that give people access to this information, then it would be passed from one to the next. Well, the British government did set up these trustees, and this puts the British Museum, unlike the Louvre and unlike the Hermitage, unlike the Berlin State Museums, for example, at arm's length from government. That's an important fact. The fact that this is not a national museum in the sense that it is part of the government. It is at arm's length from the government. It is not a museum that tells the story of Britain. It's a museum that tells the story of the world. One of the things that the current director of the British Museum, Neil MacGregor, always likes to point out is that one of the things that surprises people most when they go to the British Museum is that there are so few British things in it, because it really was not about a Britain identity. The narrative it wrote was a narrative of the world and one's place in that world.